My name's David Wiley. I'm an associate professor of instructional psychology and technology at Brigham Young University. And just going to say a few words about my chapter in this book, Opening Up Education. My chapter is called Open Course Wars. The editors of the book asked me to write a chapter imagining what might happen in the future of the open education movement, which was an interesting challenge to try to do. I started out trying to write the chapter saying, then imagine that this happened, then imagine that this happened, and it became so tedious to read that I turned around and wrote it from the future as a history of the movement, which ended up to be, I think, an interesting device for the writing. And basically, if you're familiar with Asimov's Foundation series, which is structured around a series of major intergalactic crises that happen and decision points that people have to make as they approach those crises, the chapter's written in much the same way, that there are a couple of very big problems for the movement that are anticipated, that are talked about, the fallout is discussed, and then how the field moves forward based on that is really the primary content of the chapter. Particularly some discussion around licensing incompatibilities and vagueness and or ambiguities around particularly the non-commercial clause in the Creative Commons licenses. Something that people don't generally realize is that the Creative Commons licenses are both perpetual, meaning that once you license something with a Creative Commons license, you can never unlicense it. And also that if any part of the license is ever found to be unenforceable, the remainder of the license stays intact, severability clause. So the first crisis in the book chapter is around this non-commercial clause being invalidated by the courts. And people who had licensed their content in a particular way with the attribution non-commercial share-alike license, after this court ruling is made, all their content is now licensed attribution share-alike. The non-commercial protection is gone and there's nothing that they can do about it. So that's the first kind of crisis that happens. And the chapter goes forward and imagines what happens, how higher ed specifically is impacted, how publishers are impacted, some of the student response, and how students gather around open educational resources. One of my favorite metaphors for open educational resources is a campfire, in that a campfire is sort of interesting in and of its own, but what's really interesting about the campfire is that it draws people to it, and then people sing songs and roast marshmallows, and they have these interesting social interactions around the campfire. Our open educational resources today are published, and there's not really, even though many people come to that campfire, there's not any way for them to find each other, to roast the marshmallows and sing the songs, to have the interactions that people have in a place like Facebook today in 2008. And so I tried to anticipate what that might look like when open educational resources took on more of a campfire kind of feel as well, and people began to find each other and collaborate and work together, and anticipating some technologies that might be used in the future as well. Anyway, that's a brief summary of my chapter. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoy the book.